Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'll be reviewing A Quiet Place Day 1. So A Quiet Place Day 1 is the prequel film to the first two Quiet Place movies. And like the title suggests, this takes place on the first day that the aliens fall from the sky. Obviously we've seen a little bit of this in the second film, but more focusing on John Krasinski and his family. This is focusing on two brand new characters in a brand new setting. There is one returning character that you've seen in previous films. The basic premise of this one is you have Lupita Nyong'o's character Sam, who's going through cancer treatment. She's in a patient facility and she ends up going on a trip with the other patients and their caretaker to a little puppet show that's taking place in New York City. And this movie has quite a feeling of melancholy to it, and I think that's something that really sets itself apart from the other two films, at least for me. And I think that's one thing that people watching this film might not necessarily love if you really loved the first two films, is while they've always been stories more about humanity than necessarily the monsters themselves, this one really focuses in on human relationships and what those can mean and how we can come together in times of crisis and trying to find a positive light, but still being very depressing at times. And obviously, as you expect, the aliens start to fall from the sky. Catastrophe breaks out in New York City. No one knows what's happening. There's explosions, everything you'd come to expect from like a day one event. And when Lupita Nyong'o is separated from everyone else, she's trying to get back to a place that she holds close to her heart. She grew up in this area. She has a strong relationship to the Harlem area with her father, and she just wants to go back there and have a slice of pizza at the end of the world. That's all she cares about. And as the audience members, you're really feeling for her. You're really pushing for her to accomplish this seemingly unimportant mission, but by the end of the film, it has such larger implications for our characters and just really touched me on a deep level. And I think that the overall relationships between the characters in this film and the idea of getting across the emotions that they're supposed to be feeling was just so expertly done. And speaking of the human connection in this film, Joseph Quinn, who you may know from Stranger Things, who played Eddie, plays Eric in this movie. He's studying law in New York City. He's away from his family in England. When he gets thrown into this event, he's totally alone. He doesn't know what to do. And meeting up with Sam, they create this bond of just trying to survive, and two people that are total strangers in a totally strange world in a insane event. I think that their chemistry really jumps off the screen in a very unique way. It isn't an over-the-top love story. It's not even necessarily romantic. It's just two people that truly care about one another because they're human. It's a pure human story. It's not about wanting to be with one another, maybe anything like that. It's more about just trying to help each other get through. And one of the great things about the movie is when one of them struggles, the other can bring them up, and they kind of match each other's energy in a way that is really, really touching, like I said. They both give phenomenal performances, playing a wide range of emotions, and Lupita Nyong'o has cemented herself again as one of the top actresses working today, and I did not know that Joseph Quinn was this good. Obviously, I thought he was really good as Eddie, but I would love to see what he's going to do moving forward. I'm really excited for the Fantastic Four movie and more that's in store for him, because that level of emotion and complexity that they play these characters with, I think is second to none. I think it is a fantastic film when it comes to those elements in particular. And when it comes to the things that you expect from A Quiet Place, it has all those too. It has pretty decent cinematography, it has some pretty good visual effects with the creatures, and obviously the tension and just the overall atmosphere and stress of being in the situation is there, and it does work on the same levels that it worked in the previous two films. Having this take place in this very unique location of New York City, I think helped elevate the storytelling. We're going through this environment where there are thousands of people. We're not in this desolate rural area. It is really a hive of life that's being decimated by these monsters, and it creates this incredible sound design. Obviously, in the first two films, it really hangs its hat on the sound design and the overall structure of how they use sound in those movies. But this one is very different because you're in this, like I said, concrete jungle, and these monsters are just busting through walls and running, and it creates this thunderous, intense sound, and it's so different from the very, very quiet versions, no pun intended, of the first two films. Why this movie does move away to its quiet moments, and this creates some really touching points in the film. There's a lot of big and over-the-top action, particularly in like the first 20-30 minutes of the movie. One thing I will say is I do think that audiences may not love the fact that the movie really does take its foot off the gas after that first initial event. There are some obviously really tension-filled moments, and there's even some kind of jump scares that are thrown into this movie, but moving from like the second half on, it really is a story about these two people and them coming together and trying to get past the struggles that they have and accept kind of their fate in a way. Lupita Nyong'o's character is in late stage cancer, and she basically knows she's going to die. And Joseph Quinn is just this man who's totally away from the world that he knows, basically alone in this bustling city. And without going into too many spoilers, I think their connection by the end of the film is something you can really root for, and I think really hits the impact of the story by the third act. I think the end of the film hits especially hard because of their relationship and how well these actors play off one another. Another thing that is kind of a slight knock on this movie is if you're going into it expecting it to be more of an origin story, it does feel like it's, it's day one, it's going to tell you what's happening and give you some more information. It doesn't really do that for the most part. You get to see some minor things that hint at how these aliens work and what they're doing, but it doesn't really go further than we've seen before on like a real significant level. And I do think people, like I said, that loved the first two movies will either really love this story for the kind of the human elements, or they'll be disappointed that it doesn't have more of these creatures and like more of the background. I think the physical acting of these characters, specifically Lupita Nyong'o, is fantastic. The way that she's able to express how she's feeling without really having to say anything or not having the ability to say anything. Obviously, these movies take place where you have to be completely quiet, so having to express fully through your eyes and your mouth, it was exceptional. I think she did a fantastic job, and I couldn't have wanted anything more from that performance. Another thing that could maybe give you a little bit of context for the feeling of this film is the director of the movie also did Pig a few years ago, which is a movie that I fully enjoyed that is a very melancholy and somber film with some lighthearted moments that are kind of interjected in between the kind of sadness and slowness of the film. And this movie very much feels like that, particularly in the second half. And it's something I personally loved as an audience member. I loved Pig, and I'm glad that this director brought that same energy to this film. But like I said, I think this could be something that could miss for some people. Another thing that I enjoyed about the film that I think most people did is there's a cat in this film named Frodo. It's Lupita Nyong'o's cat that she keeps with her. It's like her service animal, and throughout the film, this thing is just moving around. You don't want this cat to get hurt. You're just trying the best to keep this cat alive. It's helping the characters at times a little bit, but other times it's kind of getting them in trouble. And I do think that the idea that they use this thing as almost like a plot device at times could be just a touch manipulative, but for me it really worked. I connected with it as an animal lover. It was something that helped me root for this thing and added some tension to the story. I will go into a spoiler right now, and I know if you don't want to hear any spoilers, you can click off now. But the cat does not die, so I think that's a nice positive thing to have in there. I think for me, maybe I'm just soft, it's whatever, but I don't love when animals get killed in films. I think, like I said, it can be very manipulative, and I do like that the cat survived by the end. So, I had to give that spoiler because I know some people care about that when they go to a movie like this. So overall, if I were to rate A Quiet Place Day 1, I would give it a 9 out of 10. It's one of my favorite films of the year. I think it's my favorite of the franchise. I know that might be a little bit controversial. I think that a lot of people love the second film. I think they're all really well done, and maybe in a few years my thoughts would change, but I do think that this one does the human elements on a level that's totally different than the other ones. While those focus on a family and on kind of that very understandable kind of traditional relationship between these people, this is so different, and it's done in a way that's very touching, like I said. And I didn't expect it to feel this way. I didn't expect to feel emotion from a Quiet Place film like this, and I really did by the end, and I fully enjoyed that. So if you end up checking out this one, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Let me know whether you liked it as much as me. Let me know if you didn't like it. I always love to hear people's opinions that are different than mine. And how does it rank for the 3 films for you? So again, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.